Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is incredibly special guest, Rick Hoeg from Hoeg Law Business Law Firm. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We just got a lot of Sony news. I'm having a good day. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's something, as we talked about before the show, something I've wanted to do for a long time. And we're going to talk about this at the end too. But for anybody who doesn't know about Rick and Hoeg Law, please go check out his YouTube channel, Hoeg Law, where he does these videos called Virtual Legalities, where he goes into the various legal things that mostly games and sometimes movies and different articles and things that pop up. It's super fascinating. Like, for this stuff, for me, usually I'd be kind of like, it's kind of dry. But the way, honestly, Rick, and this is not just to flatter you, because you're already on the show, I gotcha. So sure. I don't have to flatter you anymore. But the way you present the information is so interesting to me, and it really does a good job of kind of pulling back the curtain on some of these things and some of the potential things that could be going on, which I love. Yeah,
that's the idea, right? In a perfect world, virtual legality is, I'm a lawyer. I don't know, I hesitate to say old, but I'm older than some of the folks that are experiencing some of the pop culture news items. And I was reading them anyway. And so it was one of those things where I know how I look at news articles. I know how I parse these things. I have the experience doing a lot of corporate transactions. And I decided to put together a YouTube channel and see how it went. And so we try to be conversational. We try to be extemporaneous. We try to present things and break them down to see how I read these things, how you can read them too, and ultimately, in a perfect world, so that you can critically think your way through an issue and then disagree with me vociferously in the comments about the many mistakes that I made in looking at one of these things. As we say over there, reasonable minds can differ. I'm all about reasonable disagreement. It's the spice of life, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I really have personally appreciated it. It's something that I love to have kind of just on while I'm, maybe eating a meal or something or doing laundry. And I'm just kind of like thinking about these things because you really do dive into these things in a way most articles just can't. And they don't have the
space, to be fair. Yeah,
sure. Or your background, too. 'Cause sometimes you just kind of get like, you see the news heading from one of the big gaming sites, and then it'll just be like a few paragraphs and that's it. But you're like, all right, let's talk about this a little bit more of like what this could really mean because of your background in law. And that's something that I think a lot of people could find very interesting. And obviously people have found it interesting. So congratulations.
Yeah, we've got a lot of growth this year. It's been very exciting.
Yeah, well, I hope that continues to be the case. And then one day I'll just be like, yeah, I knew Rick before he was like this super famous like video game lawyer.
I was talking to you before we started here that I 100% remember that you gave me a message of support when I had 8 or 9 subscribers. And so I will remember that. I do remember that, and I'm very thankful for it.
Oh, sure. I'm thankful. I'm just thankful that you're here. And that's one of the things I was looking back. I looked at an old video, a vlog I did way back that Ian from Easy Allies was on, and you had commented on there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a few years ago now. And I was like, and I think even in that comment on YouTube, I was like, you should be on the podcast sometime. And I was like, Jimmy, what are you doing? Like, this is a few years ago. What you need to be better about this. But either way, you're here now, and like you alluded to earlier, we just got a ton of PlayStation news because we're coming like hot right off the heels of this showcase. It just happened. So for anybody watching this who hasn't probably seen that, you probably have by now. But if you hadn't, we're just going to kind of go down some of the news from it. And the funny thing is, because I'm still trying to figure out how all these things work, because even though I've been watching them for years, I always have an idea in my mind how they should start or should end or whatever.
Oh, sure.
But of course, they saved the price of these things and the release dates for them until the very end, because it's a sales pitch, really. So you kind of want to sell people on your product and then be like, here it is. But
just a slot right before Kratos. Yep.
Exactly. So we're coming out with these 2 PlayStation 5s, the discless and the one that is completely that has a disc tray.
It has a disc drive. Yeah, they haven't come up with great names for this.
Yeah, they haven't, which they should do. But $3.99 and $4.99 respectively, which falls right in between. And again, I was watching one of your virtual legalities, and you have it kind of slotted that way, where Xbox Series S at the low end and then Series X
was my guess.
High end. Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that was going to be the case, and it is definitely the case now. So we have that information. And it sounds like, as of this recording, the pre-orders are going, they're starting tomorrow. But
not a part of the presentation. It's worth noting, right? Like one of the things we talk about on my channel is messaging and corporate advertisements and how you put these things out there. And Sony kept a bunch of things back as part of this presentation. They wanted to put the games at the forefront. They wanted to have Spider-Man out there. They wanted to have Final Fantasy 16 of all things out there, but they didn't talk about like the pricing. We're starting to get a little bit more information about the pricing of like Spider-Man and things like that. And they didn't want to talk about the actual systems.
Yeah.
It's like at least Xbox, and I've got problems with Xbox messaging, and I like some of it, and I don't like some of it. I like some of Sony's. I don't like some of Sony's. But at least Xbox said, okay, pre-orders are this date. So, I put a little thing in the Outlook and say, let's just keep track of that and figure out what's going to happen, because all of these are going to be supply constrained because everything everywhere is constrained in 2020.
Yep.
And yeah, you get like a random, what I saw in terms of this messaging was I saw a Jeff Keighley tweet where he said, Sony says pre-orders are tomorrow. That's how I found out. So if Sony said it elsewhere, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw it the same way you did. And I was thinking, okay. And I know that, so Jeff, is kind of, he's a third party, maybe not even like, he's this other news source, and he kind of has all the
anyone, but also everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was weird. I was like, so unless they said like in their conference, like, oh, look forward to a tweet from Jeff Keighley about pre-orders. Like it just seemed weird because you get this whole showcase and you get this information. You're like, all right, cool. It's coming out on this day. But for most of the people who are watching this, they wanted to know when that pre-order was. Yeah. And I was surprised. I thought it was like going to be in small text somewhere, and I had missed it because at the end I was like, oh, maybe it popped up.
A couple of weeks ago, right, they had that like page where you put in your PSN ID, and there was some language that was like, we're going to be evaluating your merits as a PlayStation customer.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, oh, okay, all right. And so I don't know whether they dropped that or whether that's actually what they're doing tomorrow. I have no idea.
Sure. Yeah.
So unfortunately I have, a law firm to run and some calls to do and some things of that nature. So yeah, I want to make sure that even if I don't get one, I at least had the option to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Because you just want to know that that's going on right now, as opposed to if Jeff Keighley hadn't tweeted that out, then if those pre-orders would have gone live tomorrow. I also wonder, maybe it was the supply constraint, and not that they shouldn't tell people when pre-orders are going live, but maybe they were hoping that like if they didn't talk about it, that it would go live tomorrow and it wouldn't be like, obviously you want
people wouldn't notice, but they promised.
Yeah,
they promised they would give people a heads up.
Okay,
because everybody's always worried about your Avengers Endgame scenario where the tickets just happen.
Yeah,
and you're running around and trying to get them done. And Sony promised that wouldn't be the case. Whether or not they keep that promise, who knows?
Sure,
corporations break promises all the time. Check out Virtual Legality.
Exactly.
But no, Sony had promised that they would have those pre-orders and they would tell people about them. I don't know whether this constitutes that. The funny thing about like a Jeff Keighley tweet, and I don't know whether you do this yourself mentally here in 2020 like I do or not, but every time I get those journalist tweets, the blue checkmark tweets, they have a little bit of information. For whatever reason, I forget that they aren't in a conference room or an office setting getting this information directly somewhere, because you're used to that. You're like, all right, I assume Jeff Keighley or Jeff Grubb or whoever, Jason Schreier, is sitting in front of this person and got a little bit of a tip, and they're putting it up on Twitter. It's like Jeff Keighley isn't anywhere.
Yeah,
like he might have an email chain or something, but he's not anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a funny part of 2020.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's like sitting on a couch somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this wasn't a conference. It wasn't a press conference. It was a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, still, you got these little beats from Keighley of all people, and who knows? Maybe that'll be corrected. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, it did seem strange to me too. Again, I thought I'd missed it, but I was like, oh, or maybe this will come out like in a formal tweet from them saying, like, hey, just so you know, pre-orders are available starting tomorrow and whatever else. And it sounds
get your bank accounts ready. Yeah,
and it sounds like they have like a tiered system too, where it's like they're releasing it on the November 12th for it sounds like North America, Australia, Japan.
It's North America and Japan. So it's the Japan countries. It's South Korea, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. That might be it. And then it's North America. So it's the U.S. and Mexico and Canada. And yeah, I think that's supply constraint, literally. I mean, I think that's manufacturing, and it's probably being manufactured in the Japanese region. They can get out those units, and then I think I saw some rumors that they were actually flying these bad boys over to the North American market rather than, normal freight.
Okay.
So we'll see. But it's interesting because Sony's so popular in Europe, to have Europe essentially wait a week is not ideal. I don't even think Sony would think it's ideal. Yeah. But it's 2020. And we live with what we can live with.
Exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, November 10th is when Series X is coming out.
Yeah. How about 2 days?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
2 days difference. I actually looked at that and I said, I was doing the math, like as it came out, I was like, oh, that's a little bit. I was like, no, that's the same week. It's like for me, I had jokingly tweeted out when Xbox announced their stuff, I guess early because their stuff leaked last week, that Sony should just pick the 10th and we'll just all have a jamboree.
Yeah.
And they practically did. I mean, the functional difference between the 10th and the 12th is minimal.
Sure.
So that's a crazy week.
Yes.
And they're really testing everybody because not to drag down the fun video game entertainment podcast here, but who knows what the economy looks like a week after the United States presidential election.
That's true.
Who knows what the world feels like? And so 2020 has already been a strain on people's resources. It's a very interesting thing to do. And so, I hope the best for everybody. I've always said, I want all of these parties. I want Microsoft to release a good box that has good support. I want Sony to. I want that competition. I want everybody to have as many good games as they can get. But it's coming in hot. It's both of these systems are coming in on a crash landing, and like nobody has a launch game really. Miles Morales is now on PlayStation 4.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and I'm still excited about them, but it's an interesting launch.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy because I was talking about this recently with the Legionnaires, and I was kind of saying like, I miss the days of when there was like a really killer app or something that comes out with the new consoles. And I know that for a lot of people are saying for Series X and Xbox, it's the Games Pass, for example. But
sure. I'm looking forward to Valhalla on the new systems. I want some frames.
Oh, sure, exactly.
I love Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. I'm a big Assassin's Creed guy, and we'll get into that. I'm glad you brought that up. But sure. I miss when there was something like that, and I feel like there hasn't been. And there wasn't necessarily for the last console generation too. I was thinking like Rise, Son of Rome was Xbox, and then I don't remember what PlayStation 4 was.
The tech demo games, right? I had said this, whether it was on Twitter or somewhere else. I had said, what we really needed was one of those games that's kind of not great, but shows off everything. That the little disc that you used to get with your 3D graphics card back in the 90s that was really awesome and wasn't a great game. But yeah, your Rise. I consider Killzone Shadowfall.
Yep.
I never really loved that game, but it was shiny.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe it's hard to tell because 4K and some of the fancy features don't come across on like YouTube videos so well. Miles Morales could be that. It's got the right kind of color scheme and lighting. So I'm hopeful. But no, nothing jumps off the screen for you right now. And I wish it did. Yeah. I would say one thing, though. One thing that really did jump off the screen for me in the PlayStation presentation that I wasn't expecting was that Harry Potter game.
Oh, my gosh.
That looked so awesome. And I wasn't expecting that at all.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, they start the music. I was like, Harry Potter game, whatever. And I was like, wow, Warner Brothers is doing some work on that game.
Dude, for sure. Well, did you see the leak from a while ago?
As I was watching this trailer, I'm like, wasn't there a Kotaku article about people in a mall playing Harry Potter or something like that? So that's what I remember. What was that about? It was some kind of quality assurance or testing or something?
From what I remember, there was a video that leaked out, and I don't remember exactly the source from it, but it was just like some kind of low-res version, I believe, of this game. And so it was floating around for a while. And a lot of people thought, okay, so the Harry Potter game, it's a real thing. And when you watched it, even though it didn't look great, you said to yourself, yes, this is clearly something that is licensed. It could work. Yeah, and you're like, okay, but who's going to get it first? And that came out so long ago that a lot of people just, whenever the next gaming show was coming up, they're like, oh, they'll show it at this thing because they've already kind of leaked it. But then
I'd forgotten its existence.
Yeah, well, when WB popped up here, I was like, oh, are they going to show some more Gotham Knights or something? And then I was like, oh, it's the Harry Potter game. And I was hoping they'd show more of the actual gameplay because the gameplay itself looks so good. Like, it looks really interesting. And I think
trailer was super impressive to me, so I hope it lives up to it.
I think, too, it's going to bring in a lot of people who might not necessarily be getting into or are into games right now. Because there's a lot of people out there who love Harry Potter so much, and they've been wanting, like, a full game that isn't, like, a movie tie-in for so long. And it's crazy to me that it's taken this long to do it. But, like, it just takes time. It's like the Avengers game. It's just, they waited. But,
well, it's one of those where it's like, I think, I see a demo like that or I see a stream like that, and it's like so many things get canceled or altered behind the scenes, and not anybody's fault. That's how development works. Yeah. And I try not to get, excited about something until it looks roughly like that. Yes. Like that's clearly imminent, I'm going to say. Who knows in 2020, but they put a 2021 date on it. That seems right. Yeah. It looks about that level of finished. And so now I'll get excited. Yes. Because otherwise, frankly, I view most Square Enix launch releases as alpha streams coming from a mall somewhere. You know, Final Fantasy 16 is like, that's great. You guys can announce that so it'll hit sometime this generation. Yep. That's fine. I'll put that in the back of my head, but I'm not going to get excited about Final Fantasy 16 until we've gone through at least 2 release date delays, and then I know it's coming.
Exactly. And that's the weird thing about Final Fantasy is in that state right now where not only that has been announced, you know, and we can talk about this for a second. So for 16 for me, because like I'm still waiting, you know, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 and 3 and maybe 4 is still in the works, and this came out, and I was chastised a little bit today because I have not been following 14 that much. At first I thought this was a 14 expansion. Because
I thought it was 15 too.
Or yeah, or something like that.
It might just be the engine, but I was like looking at it going like, that really looks like 15.
Oh, for sure. And the fighting too, when he started teleporting around, I was like, is this like are they like importing like a Noctis class into 14 and something's different?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know. And they talked a lot about crystals. And I was told that one of the people who worked really heavily, I think one of the game directors from 14 is a producer on this one. Okay. So maybe that's one of the reasons there's maybe more of like a through line.
He's earned it. He's the guy that saved 14.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
know the names, unfortunately, but that was a heck of a story.
A turnaround for sure. But yeah, so when this came out, I was kind of watching it and I was like, is this really like the next? Because I'm so used to Final Fantasy when they talk about a new one, it is like the end of days usually. Yes. Like the trailers are like, oh, and you're like, you can't, like, you don't understand what's happening, and then they put it up at the end. You're like, oh, that's the new Final Fantasy. This one, the whole time, I was like, is this really the new like Final Fantasy? Like, I was not. I'm not gonna
lie. I was waiting for a spin-off title to come out. Like, it's totally fine if it's whatever that one was called with the Class Zero or something like that.
Oh, you know, yes.
Sorry about that, where it's Final Fantasy whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was Final Fantasy 16 was a bit of a surprise. And like I said, I didn't think it looked very good in its current state, but it's probably years out.
Yeah.
And I love Final Fantasy. Yeah. So we'll give it its chance. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, Final Fantasy Reframe or Restore or whatever the heck they're going to call the next one is on its way. And, you know, I really, really enjoyed 90% of that Final Fantasy VII Remake project. So we'll see if I like the next part, but I'm looking forward to that, definitely.
Oh, for sure. Well, and also, like, I'm just happy they're moving on from 15, you know, because there's something about, like, having that long cycle on there, and the fact that there was 3, you know, entries in 13 and, you know, like 14 kind of, you know, coming and going and coming back. It's just like they need to kind of move on to make the new Final Fantasy stuff as opposed to the spin-offs and like portions of a remake that I'm like, all right,
yeah, it's like 16. One world a generation. I agree. I think that's one of the reasons why I reacted negatively to thinking it looked like 15 too, was that I wanted the next world to be a new Final Fantasy world. And this might well be, but it had so many echoes of 15 that I didn't get that, oh, wow, brand new Final Fantasy, crazy looking. And what's really odd is the remake from 1997 generally does give me those vibes, because that's just a lot of imaginative world building. And yeah, 16's not there yet. And let's hope that it gets there, but it's not there yet.
Well, when they're panning up from that first guy's face, I thought for a second it looked kind of like Squall from FF8, and I was like, are they doing a remake of 8 now too? And I was like, that would be insane to do that in conjunction with 7. Right? I mean, like, okay, guys, like, we got to figure this out. But
just do it all. Just a remake of 7, 8, and 9, and then like an Avengers mashup of all of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Just we make Dissidia, but we make it better.
We make a good game out of it.
That would be great. Okay,
yeah. Somebody will be offended by that.
Exactly. I know. Someone's gonna be like, how dare you? I remember playing that way back in the day. Sephiroth, he was great. Sephiroth, I love him.
Hey.
Anyway, so yeah, 16, there it is. It's so interesting. I thought, like, it's kind of it seems like a smaller kind of project, at least right now, or a smaller world. It's not as grandiose yet that we have seen. And I thought they were going to do more of I thought they were going to do more of an FF9, and it might be like in that style. I thought they were going to go like way back, like modern graphics, but like kind of cartoony world. I was like,
I would be there day one.
I think a lot of people would be. I think a lot of people would be like, they want Final Fantasy 9, but like the new age.
You give me a VB with ray tracing, I'm there.
Oh my god, the rays are coming out of his face. Like, you like, lose your mind. But yeah, so again, at 16, I was kind of surprised, and I'm very curious. But like you said with Square, and they have so many things going on, but because of the track record between like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15, I'm still just so reserved when it comes to these things, because my heart was open for like a decade plus. Yeah. I'm like, please just put this game out. You're killing me. So,
yeah, no. And then 15 came out, and I like it more than it probably deserves, because I love Final Fantasy, and it's more than the sum of its parts, but it's not it's not what I would describe as like a good game, like independently.
Sure.
It's just something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And so I hope for better for 16. I worry about that one. I think Square had the Project Athia video. Is that right? From the earlier showcase?
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, they're working on 100 things.
Yes.
Remake 2, whatever it's going to be called. It's going to be called something weird. Yeah. I guarantee it.
Yep.
is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to check out after the ending of Remake. So
yeah, for sure.
You know, I'm looking forward to Square's output. I always do. Hey, I like Avengers. I am what I am.
Dude, I agree with you. I've been working on that review myself, and it's crazy like how many there's so many hands or full hands in that pie for Avengers. I'm like, how many studios do you have working on this thing? It's nuts. But yeah, they're
going to sort that one out. That one's going to be great long term. I really do think that.
I think so too. But I will be honest with you, Rick. I have loved capturing footage for all the bugs because there are so many funny bugs.
Talking about we talked about coming in hot, right? Avengers came in hot. Avengers they finalized the campaign, they got it mostly working, and they said ship it. And then the post campaign stuff, the economy doesn't quite work right. Some of the stuff doesn't quite work. But the hard part, to me, my opinion on Avengers, the hard part, the moment to moment, the Bungie 30 seconds of fun works.
Yep.
They got it.
Yep.
They did it.
Yep.
They did the hard part. They just have to figure out the rest.
I agree. They're flying out of that Bifrost, and that's how hot they're coming in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I completely agree with you though. But
I've played however many hours of Cap now, so
dude, very nice.
I'm enjoying myself.
We're gonna have to get back to that because I have to talk to you about Cap. Anyway, so Final Fantasy 16. Also, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is such a fascinating thing to me because I feel like the marketing and also just the message that goes along with this game has been kind of all over the place. And now knowing just today that not only is this game going to be on PlayStation 5, it's going to be on PlayStation 4 as well. And that to me is like, okay, but it's coming at a price point, I believe, is it $50?
It is $50. It also came with an acknowledgement from somewhere else that Sony intends to price their games first party at $70.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of the new, and that was set, a little bit by, was it NBA 2K or something?
Yeah, 2K started it off. Activision confirmed it with Call of Duty. So, it's one of those things. This is where people in my comments would say, well, isn't that collusion? Isn't it antitrust behavior? I say, no. Collusion requires concerted activity where you all get into a room and you smoke cigars and you say 70.
Yeah.
That's not what happened here. You basically get a couple of people to put their toe out, say 70. Are we all cool with this?
Yep.
And then people say, yeah, it's time for 70. And so, Sony's coming out with 70. I personally preferred it when we saw a little bit of a discount on first party titles, really across the board, because of course, first party publishers are not paying themselves for their cut of the publishing fee.
Yeah.
So they're making more money on those, but it is what it is. I did a video on pricing. There are good arguments for why pricing is okay to be pumped up now. There's also arguments for why, with monetization strategies and other ways that they are getting money out of the system, maybe it didn't need to be that way. Yeah. Either way, I think consumers would like more for less. Developers would like more for doing what they do. Yeah. Publishers would like their cut, and 70 feels okay. But yeah, 50 on Miles Morales, man. From everything we've heard, I'm hoping that there's a blog post coming that says, actually, it's 2 First Lights or 2 Last Legacies or Lost Legacies. Yes. And if you give me that, I'm like, okay, right now, my gut reaction is, so this is the one thing you have to show off the PlayStation 5, and you know it, and you're going to charge me $50.
Yes, it seems really interesting to me, and it's like my own little tinfoil hat scenario, Rick, so you're going to have to just bear with me.
Sure.
So my thought, here too, is you have Insomniac, who's become such a well-known name. I wonder if in some respects, and in the past, Ratchet & Clank has kind of been a tech demo. It's kind of turned into that a little bit. So
it's a lot of shinies, yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if because of the fact that they're kind of tag teaming this, or they're doing these 2 things, I wonder if Miles Morales didn't exist, if Ratchet & Clank would have been a launch title, Rift Apart, for this, and Miles Morales would have been baked into, or they would have just said Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, and they would have just been like, it's
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that happen with Miles, right? And you're right exactly to point out the communications have been weird, which is, now we know, it depends on when they started planning this, but probably not yesterday. Yeah. Now we know it was going to be a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 5 cross-generation title. It was very important to them to make sure people knew that it wasn't an expansion.
Yes.
Which went around everywhere after it accidentally was called a sequel by such small outlets as IGN and GameSpot. And so Sony immediately had to correct all that. And then they had like a vice president of Europe talk to Bloomberg or whomever and say, it's like a First Light thing. It's fine. And then Sony has to go and say, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to figure out how to market this thing all to get to the point where you and I are talking about $50.
Exactly.
To say it's a different application. It has all these fancy things. $50 is a reasonable amount for it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's true or not. I know that I love Spider-Man 2018. That was like my number 3 game of that year. Yep. Like I really loved it.
So good.
It's one of those that even after not, getting my number 1 spot that year is a button that I still hit if I'm passing it on the PlayStation dashboard because it's so colorful and fun and you can pop in and you're going to have a good time for 20 minutes if that's what you feel like. And so Spider-Man 2018 is great. I think the other component of this, which we haven't talked about yet, is it's $50. They're also releasing a Ultimate Edition on the PlayStation 5 for $70. That's going to come with a remaster of Spider-Man, the original, with ray tracing and everything else. And there doesn't appear to be another method of getting it, A. And even if there were, they'd sell that voucher for $20. Now you start to get into the control situation. You get into Xbox and smart delivery. You get into all these things. It's like, okay, I thought we weren't selling remasters anymore. Sony never said that.
Yeah.
But I thought in general, as an industry, we were moving away from that. And unfortunately, no. Sony's like, you'll have to buy Miles Morales. You'll have to buy the Ultimate Edition if you want to get a few more shiny bits and bobs on your Spider-Man, which we can't show you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those puddles are going to look so good, though.
That's what they should do. It should be puddle edition.
That's why when they're showing that thing for Devil May Cry 5, which we'll get to in a second, they showed the puddles. I'm like, this is more Spider-Man stuff? Is Capcom working on Spider-Man? Because they like showed that shot, and I was like, But yeah, it's so weird to me because I think this game will be cool, but it really weirdly comes down to obviously the prices, but like we need to know the length of these games, and that's because the single player stuff. That's usually what it kind of breaks down to for Lost Legacy or something like that. Because people are so much more willing to pay, for a game that they're like, all right, it's like 15, 20 hours for Lost Legacy or whatever, and then they can start doing the math in their head. Because if you start doing,
so many people do that, right? And to some extent, that is at least in part a function of an industry and a product that is aimed at a younger audience.
Yeah.
In general, for the most part, 2020 notwithstanding, I've been blessed enough in my life that I yet generally can have enough money to buy the game I want, and I never have the time to play it.
Sure.
So I actually do, as I get older, like a little bit more of those. We're going to tell you a complete story in 15 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's not my problem. I liked a lot of the games that kind of take that scope. My problem is just kind of the obfuscation, and then Spider-Man 2018 is $60. That was a lot of bang for your buck in that box. Miles Morales is $50. If it winds up feeling like half or less than half, it's just an emotional, a psychological reaction.
Yeah.
And so, if it's going to be that, then Sony, you need to convince me that it's going to be a shiny tech demo as well.
Yes.
That I could say, I could point to somebody that says, why did you buy that weird spaceship under your television? And I could say, because of this. And they could understand. And YouTube's terrible at it. Like, it looked nice, but like you can't see what it's going to look like even on your nice TV on a YouTube video. So it's a hard pitch this generation, and I hope it's great. I think the game's going to be fun.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of what the scope is and whether or not it's worth that money.
For sure. And I think one of the reasons too why they kind of picked this character to do this with is I think there's kind of a fear. If you were to make him the main character, I think more people still want Peter Parker. And so if you said Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, Peter's kind of there, or they're doing a co-op thing or something like that. I think this is to kind of appeal to everybody. So that way they're kind of like, all right, well, we're going to do that Miles Morales game because we kind of teased him so hard, and you got to kind of play as him a little.
They did, a little bit.
In a sense.
Great sequences in 2018. He had some great sequences.
Yeah. All it did, though, is make me want to play Spider-Man again so badly because you're like sneaking around. And I'm like, I just want to run and just punch Rhino in the face.
He does a lot of sneaking around.
There's so much sneaking. It's like him and MJ. But I think it's a smart way to do it. I think they just need to get the messaging on board because it was, like I said, until today, I didn't know I could play it on PlayStation 4. I'm just curious to know if my PlayStation is going to, if I try to play that game, Or Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, which apparently is also going to be a PlayStation 4. That game is going to make my PlayStation 4 take off into the sky because it's
Avengers does. I don't know about how your PlayStation is doing, but my Avengers is making it sound like the helicarrier. It's 4-dimensional.
Well, okay, I don't have it. I have it on Xbox One, so thankfully it's pretty quiet. It's just we got a lot of just so many glitches. But yeah, it's.
I need that Spider-Man. See, they got me.
Oh, they got. See,
I had to go get it over on PlayStation Land.
I understand, and a lot of people were asking today. They're like, "Do you think that we're gonna see that little trailer or tease for it?" And I was like, "Well, maybe."
Oh, that would have made a lot of sense, honestly.
But maybe I still think that's a ways out for Spider-Man.
They don't think ready.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a lot of the animations.
Well, it looked like they were going to announce to go with Bishop and Hawkeye. It looked like they were going to announce Black Panther, and they wanted to lay in that.
Yeah. Which is probably smart. I think they really.
It was smart, but I'm looking forward to Black Panther.
Oh my gosh, so much! And I if we could can we go to Wakanda and Asgard? Like that's something I really want to see in this game. Like just eventually.
They don't really have a lot of fantasy kind of wild environments in that game.
Not yet. I think they were just like, all right, let's just get this kind of base thing and see if there's money coming in.
Avengers. Yeah, I just like Avengers. So I think it would have been nice to have a little clip, but you're probably right. The game came in hot. There's still 5 heroes behind Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. If I get a PlayStation 5, great. If I don't, I could potentially get it on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chances are, if I get a PlayStation 5, most I'm just gonna play Astrobot.
Yeah.
I'm that weird guy. You got the Astrobot freebie. It's my favorite VR game.
Really,
on the
that's
PlayStation.
Great. Oh.
So. We're gonna get in there and Astrobot it up,
dude.
That game is joy in a box.
Nothing wrong, dude. Just like you're living your true self. That's
beautiful. Hey, Here's the great thing, right? Like I said, I'm older than a lot of the folks that talk about these kinds of things. I don't care. Yeah. I will tell you straight up. I like New Super Lucky's Tale. I like Astrobot, and I can play those in the same breath that I play Doom Eternal or whatever your favorite maiming and goring game is.
Yeah.
But no, I love it all. I guess we'll see how the Super Mario Brothers All-Stars thing works. I've been following the emulation conversation.
Yep, that's a great way to put it.
Well, you never know, because the thing about the internet, right, is that people are likely to go to whatever poll they want and just shout either direction. And so it's like, is it the kind of thing that I will even notice? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have to go look at more fulsome videos.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's an interesting thing that you bring up. Because along with we're talking about Spider-Man here for a second. I don't know. I don't think he was included. I could be wrong. Well, actually, I think he is in the PlayStation Plus add-on, their own kind of Games Pass.
I don't know that I saw it.
Was he not in there?
What did I even write down here? Because they went really fast. God of War, Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy 15, Uncharted, Battlefield, Batman, and then it started getting too fast.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was thinking. It was like, if you put Spider-Man, like you said, you kind of do that Ultimate Edition for PS5, then maybe you withhold Spider-Man from that. But if you put him in there, I don't know if that keeps
I got no idea. Sony's still figuring that out, right? So we could skip ahead. The PlayStation Plus collection, I put a note here that it's Baby Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's designed to be a kind of little Game Pass, and they can use their own games mostly. Like 80% of the games they put were Sony games, and not like this year's games. You didn't see Ghost of Tsushima. You didn't see Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
You didn't see the really current stuff. So
totally.
it's not an analog to Game Pass where Microsoft has made this commitment to just put everything they've got in there.
Mm-hmm.
And people would say, well, that's Rick. It's because they don't have as much. And it's like, okay, all right, we could have that conversation too. But Sony's not putting all their best stuff in day one. But if that deal is actually you're going to get a Sony game a year after it releases through PlayStation Plus, that could be pretty attractive. I just don't trust that that's exactly what they're going with. So it's one of those where Sony hasn't articulated it as well as Xbox did. And you could talk about marketing. Obviously, we do on my channel a lot about how you can elide things and you can deceive a little bit. But one of the great things that Microsoft has done, regardless of how you feel about Halo Infinite or anything else, is that they've gone for like 9 months with specific messages about how they feel about backwards compatibility and smart delivery and things where bare minimum, there would be a political cost to going back on those.
Sure, yeah.
Sony basically lives in a kind of ambiguous land and says, well, here's PlayStation Plus collection. We're not going to explain what this is. We're going to throw up a lot of logos, and then we're going to put an asterisk at the end that says, you get this if you're on PlayStation Plus, but only so long as you're subscribed, and then nothing else. And then they just go to the next video. It's like, okay, That's fine, and they'll undoubtedly be a blog post about it. So I don't mean to criticize. Sony will put one up.
Yeah,
but what does it mean? One of the things we saw with PlayStation Now is they put Uncharted 4 in there for like a day. Like it was on PlayStation Now for a month or something.
Yeah,
and so they're trying to do things that are like, hey, we're just like them. Don't worry about that. And will it work? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like to entice people who were maybe, Microsoft or Nintendo lovers for so long, and it's to kind of be like, well, the games you missed, they're part of this if you buy the online. But then the real question for me is there going to be some sort of price down the line that, they're going to be like, oh, by the way, it's another $4.99.99 on top of it. You know what I mean? Because like you can't.
No, they won't do that. They'll just say whatever that price was for PlayStation Plus. We have a PlayStation Plus collection of games you already own, and now it's $80.
Sure.
Because of the value.
Yeah, sure. That's that. Yeah, exactly. So that's what it's so interesting to me, because it's like, okay, it's added on, so it's trying to make me think that if I get the online for Call of Duty on PlayStation 5, there's like more value to that subscription model. But I just if they do add things to it eventually, it will be its own thing, and it will want to, because you look at that subscription service for Xbox and you're like, it's working. So,
Game Pass is great. Now personally, I describe it as it's my favorite indie games I wouldn't have enough faith in to pull the trigger for service. And I really love it. I found some great stuff. Yeah. But it's all these games where it's like, oh, I check every week and it's like, it's got these 3 random logos and I'll be like, okay, that one and that one. And then you find some good stuff. But I love that. And my father brought me into gaming. We had an Intellivision, we had an Atari, we had all this great stuff. He's a little bit older now. He doesn't like stay abreast of everything, but we got him an Xbox and a Game Pass. And he's just like, I just go in there and I pick something and then we play it. And it's like that's the Phil Spencer dream, right?
Yeah.
It's a box you put under your TV and you tell it you want some games.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like what like Blockbuster used to be back in the day. You kind of go on and you just like be like, that looks like a cool box. And then you're just like, I'll just rent it for, a week or whatever and then try it out and be like, oh, this was great. Or, oh, it was horrible. But, you don't own it. So you're just kind of like,
No, you don't. You don't own it. And you give it a try. And that's what really works for me. Just because for the most part, even the AAA stuff that they're getting like 6 months later is stuff I would have bought, because I'm a day one sucker. I paid full freight on those, and so it's nice to see whatever Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever you got in there, but that's not going to make a big difference to me. So I like to try the weird stuff on Game Pass, and that's been worth it for me.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if PlayStation tries to do the same thing eventually, where they're kind of putting all of their like greatest hits from PlayStation 4 in this kind of bundled thing here. And I wonder if they start bringing in the other weird stuff, because like maybe they don't want to muddy. Because
they might put that in now. Like they've got too many brands of this now, right? Yeah. So I mean, they got to figure out what to do with now against the PlayStation Plus collection. It'll be interesting to watch. I love business stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. It's totally fascinating. But I just thought, I was like, okay, we're talking about this and like the whole Mario kind of thing coming up. And I was like, I feel like we need to bring this up right now while we're talking about it. But anyway, so obviously a few other games. This was like a 45-minute thing. It felt, I really like the length. I just want to talk about this for a second. I like the length and I like the fact that I can remember most of it. Jeff Keighley did a great job with the one night live thing, but it was 2 hours and I barely remember any of it. I was like, there's so much here.
I thought it was an hour. That's the funny joke, because I'd taken an hour out to watch some of it. I thought it was an hour. And it just kept going, and that was rapid fire. That was like 3-minute trailers.
Yes,
like as many as your eyes could take.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know why. I think there was probably a dozen games on this one, and that does work better, I think.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is that one wrapped up with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and a lot of it was pretty much the demo we had seen before. And I was thinking maybe we're gonna see more of that here, because I was trying to sell like more of the immediate future. But I was saying also too before the show, I really think, like PlayStation 4 and most of the consoles nowadays, it's selling you on the inevitability. I'm kind of surprised they didn't show
had that
more.
Teaser trailer at the top, right, where you got Ratchet, you got Hitman, it's like this is the fun you're going to be having for the next 7 years.
Yep.
It's like, well, okay, and hey, I think Ratchet and Clank will be a lot of fun. It doesn't bother me that they didn't make a bigger appearance here. But there were some interesting choices in the rest of the list.
For sure. Well, that's the thing, too. Again, if Miles Morales doesn't exist and like it was a launch title, I'm sure like Ratchet would have been more like, hey, it's a launch title for PlayStation 5.
Oh, yeah, big blowout.
How
many PlayStations has Insomniac launched? I seem to remember getting Resistance with the PlayStation 3.
That's true. That's true. And it's also, somebody brought this to my attention the other day. I didn't realize this, but Infamous 2 Second Son started PlayStation 4, and then Ghost of Tsushima kind of ended it for Sucker Punch. So it's like they seem to get certain groups to be like, all right, you're going to launch a thing here, and then by the time you make that next one, it's going to be the end of it.
I'm so happy for Sucker Punch. You know, I loved Sly Cooper, but like Ghost of Tsushima is something else.
Oh my goodness. It's just so, like, you know what? I've said this before because they've talked about it. Just side note, I'm sorry. This is a tributary of the river that is a conversation. But,
sure.
Basically, with Ghosts, what they said was that they were looking at maybe doing like a pirate thing or like a musketeer thing or something. Guys, go do that, please, because I love Ghost of Tsushima so much. I don't want you to do you could do it again. Become the new Ubisoft. Just go do these things whenever you have the time. Just take as much time as you want. Because I was like, you killed this. I don't know if I want another samurai game for so long, because this one felt so I felt so at peace. I was like, yes.
That's true. Like, it's its own story.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
We don't need to go to Mongolia. Maybe do some DLC. You know, you're doing the co-op thing. That's great. But just if you want to do Musketeers, make the best Musketeer game that's ever been made. And just be like, yep, we have no competition. Just be like, that would be so good. Ugh.
I like your plan. They have to do that after another 6 Sly Coopers, though. I need some more Sly Coopers.
Sly Cooper is such an underrated. Yes, it's an underrated group.
Vision style bring forward of Sly Cooper.
Yes, I would love to go back. I haven't played those in so long. Those were games I was renting from Blockbuster back in the day, and I remember really enjoying them. There's something so cool about the Sly Cooper games, and the fact that the interesting thing was more about just getting away with stealing something as opposed to just killing a bunch of people.
They were heists. They were great. I was playing them in law school. So, different state.
Cool. Dude, that's dude, you're sitting there and you're like, all right, so if Sly did this, how many years would we put him away for? That
was my life, man. Reading cases and then getting to the late part of the night and closing the shades and playing, God, what was I playing? I was playing Sly Cooper and NFL Street.
Dude, nice.
I almost missed a property exam for beating, what was it? Final Fantasy X, into the night.
Oh, nice.
Along those lines.
Dude, 10. So good. Oh my gosh. Brings back memories. I love 10 so much. 10's my personal favorite.
10 is so sad.
It's super sad. It's if you love summons, it's the greatest but worst game ever, because oh man, that ending, you're like, no, I have to do what? And they're like, you have to, and I'm like,
so sad.
Oh my gosh. 10 though. Oh my gosh. I never played 10-2 though, so
yeah, I think 10-2's happier. You're pop singer.
Okay, yeah. See, there you go. Maybe I should play 10-2. It seems like everybody's happier there. But yeah, sorry, we were talking about Sucker Punch and stuff, but launching these kind of things with Insomniac, and which Resistance, bringing that up. Where's I don't know if will we ever really see Resistance again? I don't know.
I think Insomniac has, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, they are the Spider-Man studio for a decade.
Yep.
I mean, the problem with killing it as well as they did is that's what they're going to do. Spider-Man was off the charts, their best game ever.
Yeah.
And it's they'll do Spider-Man 2. I liked your conspiracy theory about maybe Miles Morales is longer than I think, because they just didn't want to put a 2 on it. That's the first time I've heard that. I like it. I'm gonna live with that, hoping that it's really long, nice, broad game. But yeah, clearly the end of Spider-Man 2018. No spoilers, but it's clearly leading up to more Peter Parker stuff.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that, but that's going to be Insomniac. I don't know their size anymore. The next one we're going to talk about is Black Ops Cold War. I could talk about my brother now here. My brother worked at Insomniac. He worked on Cracking Time.
Oh, cool.
So I actually have in my office a giant statue of Captain Quark. That was available at the Insomniac store.
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, he got some nice swag. But it was at that point they had a couple teams. I don't know. My brother, bless his heart, is the most fervent defender of his non-disclosure obligations in the world.
Good.
Activision, Bobby Kotick, if you are listening to this, when we talk about Black Ops Cold War, I want you to know my brother Tom didn't tell me anything, anything at all. And I would submit the leaks that would come out and be like, they say it's in the 80s. Hey, it says Cold War and whatever. He'd be like, okay, interesting. So I'm finally allowed to say that he's working on it at High Moon, that High Moon is a part of the team that's making Cold War, which was pretty exciting to get to say. Yeah, he's been all over the place, and I'm looking forward to the new Ratchet and Clank. I'm looking forward to the new Black Ops.
Yeah,
hopefully it's awesome
for sure. Well, that's the thing. I was thinking about this earlier. A lot of people were talking about the potential that maybe Microsoft was going to kind of win back that. There's this kind of weird deal that I think some game enthusiasts know about, where
game enthusiasts, I like it.
Yeah, I prefer that over gamer, because something about gamer kind of has never worked.
I never liked hardcore gamer.
Hardcore gamer,
yeah. Particularly hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, if I watch a movie, I'm not a viewer. I'm like a film buff or a film enthusiast. Anyway,
movier.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a hardcore movier. Okay. I love Jurassic Park. Anyway,
that sounds like a good channel name.
Yeah. There we go. I'm launching a second one. Don't take it from me, Rick.
All right.
But so with this Call of Duty stuff, it's always interesting to see who at the kind of the beginning of a console generation is going to get like the new stuff first, because that for a long time, since like 360 era, has been kind of like, okay, it seems like there's money going back and forth and kind of trying to gain that group, because those games, they always sell so well usually, and the Black Ops games definitely carry a certain kind of love in them. I know I played a lot of Black Ops 1 way back in the day, so seeing Black Ops kind of pop back up and go through all the iterations it has is interesting to me. And seeing this today, it felt more like this was the reason to keep the people who are playing Call of Duty right now on PlayStation 4 to keep, get a PlayStation 5. Like to keep it in the family of PlayStation.
With like they announced multiplayer exclusive alphas and things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not so much the cinematic stuff, which is fine, even though we've just seen so many. It's Call of Duty stuff, and I was just watching him, like, yeah, he's immune to bullets, it's fine. Like, he's just gonna run up and stab a guy and then shoot the same guy in the face.
It's Call of Duty.
That's what he does, I got it. Yeah, and so for me, I've just seen so many Call of Duty cinematics, but I think that was still another thing in PlayStation's kind of like, all right, this is one of our weapons. We want to keep it. It served us well during our PlayStation 4. We want to keep it, hopefully, into PlayStation 5. I don't know. What did you think of it?
Of the actual trailer?
Sure.
I want it to be great. Obviously, I got family working on it.
Family.
Yeah, I'm the same place as you, which is like I wasn't even really paying attention to it that much because one, Call of Duty campaigns are short enough. I don't need to see any action sequences. To be frank, I did a little bit of the same thing with Spider-Man. I kept track of, okay, it's Spider-Man jumping around.
Yep.
But I still hold it against Sony that they put the cutscene that was, I don't even know, 4/5 of the way through Spider-Man 2018 at E3. And we're just constantly waiting for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it looked good. It's again, it's hard to tell on YouTube, but like, I think you'll get some nice frames. It'll be fun. It'll be nice to have a campaign.
Yeah.
I didn't play Modern Warfare, which I'm told that a number of people liked. But I didn't play that one. And so my last iteration was the Black Ops without the campaign.
Sure.
So it'll be nice to jump into that. I play more of that than multiplayer, not because I don't like multiplayer, but Call of Duty is a bit twitchy for me.
Yeah.
I don't have the capability, maybe never did, but can't stay alive very long in Call of Duty. So probably won't play a ton of that. But it looked Call of Duty-ish. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I know they showed off they're talking about the Warzone stuff because that's kind of their persistent battle royale thing. And I was kind of surprised. I thought we'd get a little bit more of that because the thing I feel bad about with the Call of Duty campaigns and stuff, I really respect the budget and the time they put into them and that they still make them, because there was one a few years ago where they didn't do a campaign and people were like, are we not doing campaigns anymore? But they're still doing them. But the fact that people blow through it in like a weekend and it's just like this amazing, it's like a 6 or 8 hour movie that's really high budget that you control, but it's done. Like you get done with it and you're not like, oh, we should go play that level again. It's like, no, we're playing team deathmatch or we're battle royale and stuff now.
It's like a Netflix series. It launches, you binge it.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. They should start doing what Amazon Prime does. They'll just release the first 3 hours of the campaign, and then every week you have to check back in for another hour of the campaign.
Hey, I try to tell Activision, they don't want this, but it's like, I would pay $30 for the Call of Duty campaign in the box. That's more than you've allocated to it in resources, but that's what I care about.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do a campaign in zombies, I'd get up to 40, maybe 45. I mean, we could start talking about this, Activision. The problem is your package in Call of Duty is not all things that I like, or that I'm good at or that I enjoy playing. So it's one of those where I like campaign, I like zombies, and you sell the season pass to me in Call of Duty land, and if I want to play those next zombies maps, I have to essentially pay a huge amount of money for multiplayer maps that I don't want.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. And I think you make a really good point there, because it would be interesting to see them, deviate and make some kind of weird offshot thing like that, because it probably would still sell pretty well, because there's a lot of people out there who I think still enjoy the campaigns, but are like that, or just don't have the time they want to pour into it, where they're like, I'm going to play Battle Royale for 20 hours and maybe win a couple times. Like, that's not what I want to do, or whatever.
Well, if you just released a remastered campaign set, I've loved what they've been doing with the Modern Warfare. You did, Infinite or Advanced or whatever you want to do. And you put those together. That's a package I would buy. But the Call of Duty package, this is, I've talked to my brother about this. It's like, I'm glad you're working on it. Obviously, one of the biggest games in the world, but I'll buy it, and it's not my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing, too, that's interesting about these types of shows is they kind of always allude to other shows now, because every kind of bigger developer has their own kind of dedicated show for it now. So they'll be like, we're excited to show you more about zombies or whatever, but at a later date on our own terms, kind of when they can, control the day a little bit more. So they didn't really show too much more of some of that stuff that maybe people really wanted to see more of. And I could be completely wrong. They maybe have shown some of this stuff, but it was very much like a more's coming.
They've been pretty tight-lipped on Cold War. They've been pretty tight-lipped, but no, I think it looked good.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you too. I'm just like, it looks fine. It looks like exactly kind of what I expected it to be. I just want Ronald Reagan as a playable character. That's all I want. That was quite
the cutscene, man. That's a heck of a Ronnie.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're doing this now.
Dude, swinging for the fences. They're like, all right, so no more Kevin Spacey. We're doing Ronald Reagan. We're going to do an impersonation of it too, which I was thinking about this. They must have had to go through his estate and everything too.
I would think.
What I mean?
If you want the virtual legality aspect. See, now you're thinking like me, which is every time I see one of those things, it's like, all right, what licenses went into play here? So you got likeness and publicity. Yeah. He's a public figure, but in all honesty, if you didn't want to even if you could legally do it, and I'm not sure you could, but even if you could, you wouldn't want the backlash of the estate saying, how dare you desecrate his name? So you'd go get that permission. Yes. I can't imagine they didn't.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Rick, you've changed me. What can I say? I look at these things. I'm like, And I also think if you were that voice actor or that actor in general, it's like, oh man, they'll obviously credit you for it, but you got to do a good enough job so people aren't finding you and they'll be like, did you play?
Oh, I thought the cutscene was great.
Yeah, I think it was wild. Yeah,
it was great.
It was crazy. I joked about this too. There have been so many Call of Duties, and because they keep alternating every year, they always change out the villains because the villains usually die. But then I only know maybe one or two of the protagonists from one of them. So when they introduce these characters or show them off again, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, such and such is back." I'm like, I don't remember that person. I'm so sorry.
You and me both. Because I feel the same way with the Modern Warfares and everything. I was like, oh, this guy with the mustache is back. I was like, Yeah. I hate to sound bad, but they don't really have names to me.
Yeah.
I don't remember whether Soap died.
Does it Soap and Price? That's the two I know.
And with Black Ops, it's there's the one guy with the dude from Avatar goes crazy, and there's a Russian who thinks he's American, or the other way around. Mm-hmm. It's you know what? Just put in the campaign. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's one in Black Ops where you're jumping across rooftops and it's raining at night and you're dual wielding guns. I was like, that was a cool level. I was like, more of that kind of stuff. I love that. Yeah.
This is why I actually like the one-offs. I think my favorite Call of Duty from last generation is actually Infinite.
Oh, really?
And I know it didn't sell anything. Everybody, it didn't sell to the mass market, but Infinite Warfare had so much money put at it. And it's just a little taste of Colony Wars. It's a one-off. You get to fight Jon Snow. It's a good time.
Exactly. See, that's the thing. It stayed with you. So you're that Activision. Just bundle all of your campaigns.
I really would. I really would get that.
I wouldn't be. That would be kind of cool, a remaster. Well, I should say we're moving away from remasters, and they're not going to remake these things. But if they chunked all those campaigns together, that would be kind of cool. I would be interested in that, honestly.
Well, the thing is, we're talking about hard drives that are going to have capacity constraints.
Yep.
So, one of the things with Call of Duty is Modern Warfare is whatever it is now, 200 gigabytes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it's Activision, we're coming to a place where we're not even talking about money or even time necessarily. It's I got to allocate this 800 gigs that I've got. So, yeah, if I'm not playing multiplayer, I would like to maybe keep zombies and single player on my system. But if that's not a choice, I'm kicking it all.
Yeah.
And so if you've got monetization, if you want my engagement for some reason, which you probably do, you need to start thinking about things that I can do to break up your group here.
Yeah, for sure. Like choosing which ones when you install it on day one, they give you like campaign, multiplayer, battle royale, and zombies. Like I choose
do that a little bit, right? Like you say, start with single player, start with multiplayer, like where you can jump into. I want to be like, okay, so I beat the campaign. I'm not going to play that for a year. If I revisit it, so just you can cut that off. I don't need those textures.
Yeah,
and then do the next thing, but. We're not there yet. Someday.
That's a great idea, though. I like that one a lot, Rick. That's a good one. Oh, that's cool.
I just need the space. That's my problem.
It's the space. That's why a long time ago I got my external hard drive for Xbox One, and I didn't look back because I was just like, I'll just download whatever.
Well, I don't know whether they're going to throw up. See, I like the external hard drives. I don't know whether these new systems are going to throw up on not having an SSD. So, like, I don't know that I can afford an external SSD to put on these things.
That's true.
So it'll be interesting.
I heard there was something about like for the Xbox One X, like you could plug in an external like 1 terabyte or something like SSD.
SSD?
I could be wrong on that. I could be completely off on that. So I'm still looking into that because that's a consideration for a lot of people because these games, you're right, they take up a lot of space, especially your Call of Duties or like your Red Dead Redemptions. I've got a friend who's got like, if both of those are installed on his original recipe Xbox One, he's like, I can't have other games on here. He's like,
yeah, no, I think my biggest installs are Witcher 3 and Final Fantasy 7.
Oh, for sure. Oh, well, yeah. My gosh, yeah. Witcher 3. That's another big game. And Final Fantasy 7, man. Oh, man. Yeah, definitely. Okay. But still, these are all considerations we're making Call of Duty. This is not what we should be thinking about when the next Call of Duty comes up, is what we're trying to say. So, guys, figure it out. Thank you. Courtesy of Jimmy and Rick here.
There you go.
So,
I'll try not to get my brother fired.
Exactly. No, keep him. He's great. He worked at Insomniac. Isn't that amazing? He's got a great resume, this guy. Okay. I forget what came after. Was it Resident Evil 8?
Yeah, Village.
Yes.
Crazy Witch Lady and a Woods.
Yes. Which is very different than the crazy. Well, they're not witch, but they're kind of the mutant family that was in 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly going for the 7 vibe.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I liked 7. It's interesting because Resident Evil is a series that has evolved and morphed a couple times now. So they're clearly in their, I don't even know, grimy, Blair Witchy. Type mode, and I really liked Biohazard. I really liked 7. That's one of the most intense VR experiences that I ever had.
You played it in VR, Rick?
Oh, I did.
Oh my gosh, you're a madman. I love it.
I did. There's some about people just kind of appearing in your actual field of vision using that. Some of that stuff is just crazy.
Yeah.
But like I really like that. Watching Village, I will undoubtedly like it, but I think I prefer. I don't know if it's comic booky or heightened. I prefer the original recipe Resident Evil.
Sure.
So I really like the 2 remake. I really like the 3 remake. I'd love to see Code Veronica remake.
Yes.
That kind of campy, over the top, colorful, mad scientists are experimenting on the citizens of the city is my Resident Evil. Yeah. And that's not taking away anything from this, but this is more like, yeah, I'm excited about that. I'll play Resident Evil 8. But it goes into the bucket in my head. It's like, okay, so that's like Outlast or something creepy in a way that isn't the Resident Evil that I grew up with. I mean, sure. To some extent, this is what you played when you were a teenager, right? I remember buying Resident Evil in one of those big cardboard boxes, whenever that was, 95. And I had played before that Alone in the Dark. And I loved Alone in the Dark on the 3DO, if anybody knows the 3DO. So when Resident Evil came out, that was a revelation. Like that was just so awesome. I played through both campaigns, had just a great time. Love that game to death, Jill sandwich and all. And, 8 is going to be good. It is going to be good.
Yeah.
It doesn't get that same kind of love and affection that like, I really like the Resident Evil 3 remake, even though I know a number of people say it's not the same game. I liked the flow of the remake better than the old game. So,
sure. Did you feel like it was worth the full price? Because I know that was something that a lot of people were sticking on for 3.
It didn't bother me. That actually goes back to the kind of I'm okay with shorter games.
Sure.
So I don't know what it took me in a first run. 8.5, maybe something like that.
Okay.
I'd have to go look, but yeah, it was okay, and it was to me it was pretty close to all killer, no filler. Like
sure.
you're just constantly doing big things, and so that's distinct from like I love Dragon Quest. But you're going to sit down and you're going to play 3 hours of grinding to get to the next village.
Yep.
Like, that's fine. I like that. I enjoy that process. That's a little different than you're constantly running from your life from a big monster and like buildings are falling down and things. Yeah. So, it's just a different experience.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And for me, a lot of people know this. I'm just a big scaredy cat, so I'm not picking up 8. I respect that it exists. I'm glad that people like it. I think if you're a Resident Evil fan, they're doing the remakes of all the ones you love, except for Code Veronica. They're doing this new things. So they're tag teaming it, but they're doing, 2 very different takes on Resident Evil. One seems to be more of like what you were saying, Rick, kind of like that old school, more like, over the top. And this one's more like if it were you and it were kind of more realistic in a sense, how you would react to that situation. But
yes, it's designed to put you in a real space.
Exactly.
And if you're a scaredy cat, then I think you got to do a stream. It would be a great video for you to put the VR helmet on to get into Biohazard. I have a buddy of mine who's just a good dude and had to like pause flash through various scenes screaming like a girl.
Sure. Yep.
And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Who doesn't love that?
I've thought about doing that. The only problem is, Rick, not only would it be a space thing, I think I would just be vomiting everywhere the whole time too. Because there's some like VR games like Beat Saber that I'm like, perfect, this game is great for it.
Yeah.
But the ones where I have to move in like an actual 3D space, that's where and I'm not physically moving, I'm like, it takes a little while to get used to. And if I had to run from somebody, I'd be like, so I'm impressed, dude, that you made it through. That's so fantastic that you got through that. I would not be able to do that. I would be like, oh my gosh, but I respect it. And that reminds me, I need to go back and play Dead Space. I want to go back and play Dead Space for stream because they're fun. They're fun games to watch me be afraid of. But those games. Are you
afraid of just the jump out of closet things, or also like the existential stuff? Because I love Soma.
Okay, sure. I would probably say it's more the jump scary stuff that gets me. The existential stuff can creep me out. I think something like PT, I did play that a little while ago. That did a great job of just doing something like, it would jump out at you sometimes, but also it'd be like, it's the thought of a thing that could be there or was there and it's not there, like that kind of stuff.
That's the reason PT is famous, is because it just had everybody on lockdown on that. Like nobody could play that demo the first time. That was... I was showing that to everybody, and everybody freaked out. I put the headset on them.
Yeah. Oh no, thank you.
Oh yeah, no, everybody. PT, you're well within your rights to be concerned about PT. But yeah, Soma, I give highest marks to.
Okay.
A lot of really interesting philosophical, existential dread stuff in Soma.
Excellent.
And so highly recommend it. Not a lot of jumping out at you.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I know. My joke to some people who are that way, I'm like, oh, so you're just like a masochist, right? Like I'm like, I already have enough problems in my life. I don't want to do my escapism into a worse life. And I'm like, oh my god,
that's fair.
I have to kill my wife or whatever. Like what happened to her? It's like,
that's fair.
Man, like it freaks me out. But it looks like she's kind of back, but maybe not. Who knows?
It looks like she's kind of back. Yeah, that's the good description of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things where I'm like, I'm not really sure. But either way,
saw that in the trailer to Village. Looks like she's kind of back.
Yeah, you're put it on the back of the box, Capcom. You're welcome. I'm happy to help. But Capcom's really been going nuts lately. And between that and then the biggest thing from the show for me personally, which I'm not usually crazy about remakes, or I should say more remasters and things like that, which they put out a very funny blog post on Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. I want to touch on it briefly. They even put a picture of like the ray tracing. So they have like a picture and they're like, this is what it looks like on PS5. This is what it looked like on PS4 to like show that it didn't look great on the PlayStation 4. Like one of the windows didn't look super good with like that, like the lack of that. I was like, this is so funny to be like, oh, remember that last one? It didn't look so good. So you want to buy this new one. But it's for $40. It introduces a few new modes to the game, which doesn't really matter to me. But my boy Virgil is finally showing up, and it's a big deal to me. The thing is, apparently, and I read this, and this is what I'm going to do, I think they're just going to release Virgil as standalone DLC down the line, because I don't want to like rebuy this game that's only like a year and a half old. So for me, that's what I'm going to do. But I love Virgil so much, and I was so saddened that he wasn't playable in the game, even though people found ways to break into the code of the game and play as him in the original game, like on PC.
He's in the game.
He's in the game. He's just like, they were like, no, he's not. And I was like, well, are you guys going to release him as like DLC? And they're like, we're not doing any more DLC for this game. And I'm like, but why don't I know he's in the? Why would you do this to me? Like, I'm one of your diehard fans. I'm like, you guys help me out here. So I was just excited that he's showing up because he's one of my favorite video game characters of all time. But for a lot of people, I think it was the most niche thing in the whole conference that was
great.
You know,
it's always nice when you get what you want.
Yeah, well, it's like, again, I wish you would have just been there originally, and I also like wanted co-op and stuff. But I'm a dreamer, Rick. I'm always dreaming of co-op because I always have this dream of like, if I could clone myself and play a game, I think that'd be best. Because when I do co-op with most of the people I love very dearly, it does not go the way I wish it would. But
yeah, I mean that's often the way, isn't it?
You know what I mean? It's like nothing against them. I love you guys, but seriously, you're driving me nuts. But
I highly recommend checking your relationships with Overcooked. It is an excellent barometer of how strong your relationships are.
I did play that recently with a friend who I think it made us better friends.
Good. See?
It was good. I've heard a lot of people do that with like a romantic partner, and they're like, all right, let's just see how we can do this. Like it's just like,
oh, we had the whole squad. I had my wife and my 2 kids.
Oh, really?
We were working on it.
Fantastic. You got your own like little chef truck situation. You know,
you just got to be really careful to not scream at your youngest daughter. It's
she's sitting just like 20 years from now, just sitting in the psychologist's office.
Exactly.
Like, my dad used to
get the burger bun on the plate.
Yeah, and she's like, well, I don't remember you ever working at like a diner. And she's like, no, we're playing Overcooked. I'm like, well, what's Overcooked? No.
Yeah, they love it.
That's great. But anyway, so for me, I was excited to see that pop up. And again, I made that joke when we saw the puddle at first. I'm like, it says Capcom, but it might just be Insomniac with their ray tracing puddles. So, but it wasn't that. It wasn't that, you know. But another thing I was hoping to see, because Capcom is kind of everywhere right now, I was hoping to see Monster Hunter World 2 stuff. We didn't. There's some kind of rumors floating around that they might be making a different Monster Hunter that's coming to Switch coming up here soon, besides the one that they just had on Switch a little while ago. So I'm really interested to see all that. I just want World 2. I just want World 2 because I think that game is incredible. One of the best games I've ever played. I've dumped more hours into that game than pretty much most relationships I've ever had. So
well, you saw Monster Hunter World is in the PlayStation Plus collection, so that can be the kind of thing that leads into a sequel announcement. So
exactly, that's why it gives me that Game Pass, like you said, the Game Pass mini vibe. When I saw that pop up, I was like, oh, okay, they really it's like the greatest of PlayStation 4, but also like this cross-platform
stuff.
Like,
yeah,
you know,
Batman.
Yeah, Batman's here. When Delson Rowe smashed into the ground, Batman came out of it. We all remember it. Like it was a great gaming moment for us all. I'm trying to remember what came after like Village and Devil May Cry.
This is the smorgasbord. So we had Deathloop, which was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, that got pushed for a couple quarters. We had Soulstorm. We had my personal wild card of the presentation, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh my gosh!
Which I don't know who had that on their bingo card for the PlayStation 5 showcase.
Wow.
And then I think the last big thing before essentially the teaser for Ragnarok, outside of Fortnite. Yes, Sony paid $250 million for this. Fortnite will be on the PlayStation 5.
Thank goodness.
Was the big long clip of Demon Souls?
Yes.
Which it's interesting, like the way memory works. I played Demon Souls when it came out. Demon Souls remake now looks like what we expect a Souls game to look like now.
Yeah,
give or take. And so it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I mean that's what Demon Souls look like. You could absolutely look at those two screens and be like, oh no, Demon Souls never looked like that. But yeah, it does what it says on the tin. That's clearly Demon Souls brought up to kind of a modern look.
Yeah.
So now the world might be mended. Will be in my head for like the next 72 hours. But yeah, it looked good. When that comes out is a question. I know some people were reporting that it was potentially a launch game. I don't know.
I heard that it was actually going to be a launch game. From what my Legionnaires tell me, they say that it's going to be a launch game, but still, that's something that you think they would have put in. It
wasn't confirmed, so you always have to take those with like that. Might be coming in really hot.
Really hot, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So I'm kind of confused too, because it's like if that were the case, you think they would have said in the show like,
say Spider-Man, Demon Souls, show off your rays. We're tracing them all.
Exactly.
Launch day.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, too, I was like, I knew what it was, and, kudos to Bluepoint. They did such a great job. But when I look at this, because there's been so many Souls competitors out there, and for the people who played Demon Souls way back in the day, you look at this and you say, oh my gosh, yes, like this is what I remember. But because there's been so many, for me, if someone weren't to have told me that this was Demon Souls, I'd be like, oh, this looks like a Souls game of like, it looks like another one of those Souls games, kind of.
Yeah,
not even in
Souls. Kind of a Bloodborne vibe, a little bit more than the original had. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're just coming off what Mortal Shell came out a month ago.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's been a popular kind of genre that people have been enjoying. Demon Souls is like the godfather of it. So, I mean, I think it'll be cool. But, it's hard. Like, I think there's some stuff to be excited about, but a remake of Demon Souls and a Spider-Man expansion is an interesting launch.
Yes, oh, for sure. And I'm also interested in the exclusivity of it because for a while it's been, yes, it's exclusive to PlayStation 5 and stuff, but there might...
That's what I should dive into the licenses too, because my recollection from the original was like Demon's Souls was half funded by Sony.
Yes, and that's the reason they made Dark Souls is because they couldn't...
Right, Dark Souls was a swap out of the concept, but I don't remember the details, so nobody hold me to that.
Yeah.
This is not legal opinions here on the podcast.
Yeah, but I'd be interested to see if that's the case.
My recollection was From had to break out from Demon's Souls a little bit because Sony had some rights in it. Yeah. So if that is the case, then it's going to be limited to Sony and maybe PC. I mean, you could see a couple announcements that like maybe Sony's trying to figure out about what they're going to put on PC. They're clearly playing around with how that works with Horizon and patching and making sure everything is tip top over there. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good presentation. I think you were absolutely right to be like, it's the right number of games. It's 40 minutes. It's 45 minutes. It finishes off with, the big information that everybody wanted. The fact that these consoles, 4 of them, are launching within 2 days of each other is hilarious.
Yes.
And then you throw on, for me, I love my Quest, and I was really thinking strongly about getting the Oculus Quest 2 that they announced today because that looks really great.
Oh, cool.
I don't think I have the resources for all of that.
Sure.
But you think about all that stuff releasing. I think Nvidia is releasing their new cards like that month.
Yes,
it's
coming
a
quickly.
big tech couple of weeks, and that's fun. It's been a long year.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
It's nice. Video games actually have been pretty good about still releasing interesting things at least once a month.
Yeah.
And that's been nice for somebody that loves movies and things as much as I do. Sports. I'm a big Michigan Wolverine fan. Football has been gone. Basketball was ended early. E3 didn't exist. Summer blockbusters are gone. It's been nice to get that Last of Us 2 in June and Ghost of Tsushima in July and Avengers in September. And so gaming's done its job for this tough year. And I think the PlayStation Showcase continued that. I think it's going to be an exciting November. I don't know that my TV stand can actually place the enormous Xbox refrigerator or the PlayStation 5 UFO.
Yep.
We'll see. I actually have to do some measurements. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of those things. But
they're massive. They're massive. They're huge. I saw that like the little kits they were sending out to people, like the plastic ones. They're kind of like holding them up and like showing them off. I was like, what? Oh my god!
You need to send one of those to me so I can be like, how? Let me configure the space first. Like, give me like a preload for my
exactly. It's like you're gonna start making like garage space for these things. You're like, I just need like a super long HDMI cable. What do we got here, guys? Like,
no, so it'll be cool. I love this stuff. I love this hobby. I love this industry, obviously, and it's fun to have them launching identically. I don't know that we've ever done that before.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it's perceived. Everything will sell out, in the early stages. The question is Q1, is Q2. How things go from there. I'm really, really interested in Series S versus discless.
Yep.
Like Sony really brought that one in tight to the S. And I think Microsoft had a good plan, but they really had to lower the specs of the S. And the fact that the PlayStation 5 discless is just discless, so it's otherwise a PlayStation 5, I look at that and say, well, if I'm close on that question, if I'm in a store, $100 for a full featured system is a pretty easy sell to me.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. I hear you. And that's the really curious thing about all this, because again, we're consumers, obviously, but consumers that do watch this sort of thing.
Yeah, we love this stuff.
Yeah, we're interested to see like the models and like how many sell and like what's kind of the consensus. And it's also really fascinating to ask people who aren't watching this stuff, who know some of the information and don't have all of the information, and just like what like brand they have loyalty to, or if they're just kind of like, no, I'm a mercenary, I'll go wherever the best stuff is. So that stuff for me is a lot of fun, because I talk to so many people who are not as informed, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like I'm curious to hear what your opinion is.
Well, that's me too. I mean, to me, it's looking like, my best guess is it's going to wind up being what it is right now for me, which is a 1X and a Pro. Basically means that the third parties live best on the 1X. And Sony has all the goodies in terms of the first party stuff. So I think my best guess is that's what will happen again, because the Xbox Series X, man, is it hard to remember how to talk about these things. is going to be just a brute force machine.
Yeah.
And so you see the blog post from UB or Microsoft saying, oh yeah, Valhalla is going to run 4K 60, no problem. The Series X has got it. And it's like, that's great. And we'll see on the PlayStation 5, but there's a little bit more tricky programming. And so, yeah, I think I'll have both boxes eventually, whether that'll be in this year or not. Open question, depends on a lot of things. But yeah, it's an exciting time to be in game industry stuff.
Yeah. Oh, which reminds me, I do want to ask you this. So are you going Valhalla, and like, do you have any interest in Watch Dogs Legion at all?
I keep forgetting it exists. So that's probably not a great sign. But I love Assassin's Creed. I think this is the team that did Origins, which I love.
Yes.
He's doing Valhalla. Some of the stuff that's come out has made me like, oh, I'm not sure about that plan, but I'm interested to see what they do. Watch Dogs Legion. I have such a complicated relationship with Watch Dogs.
Sure.
Watch Dogs, the first one was kind of okay. Watch Dogs 2 was kind of weird.
It is weird.
Watch Dogs 2, if you go back and look, it's like when Ubisoft first decided that they weren't going to have linear games. So there's just like all of these quest lines that fly in, and you can like do them in any which way. And so I don't think Watch Dogs 2 had actually mastered what they wanted to do, which they got better at with like Far Cry and things like that. I'm interested in Legion. I do fear that rather than feeling like you have access to 1,000 characters or whatever, it's going to feel like you have none. Sure. That you're just the Legion and you have your robots. And that could be a concern for longevity. But they make cool stuff. A nighttime neon London sounds cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I keep forgetting it exists. That's the God's honest truth.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. And that's interesting because I am a big Assassin's Creed fan. If you would have been on the show like a little while ago, I used to have a big oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name from the first Assassin's Creed? Altair. I used to have a big poster right up here. And I've played through pretty much all of them. But after Odyssey, I think because of the whole like level gating thing, I was so grinded out that I was like, why?
I adored Odyssey, but you want to talk about a game that can be too long.
Oh my gosh.
I love Odyssey. Odyssey was my game of the year in 2018. Cool. But oh my goodness, is that a long game?
It reminded me so much of like how I know so many people got angry at the old combat system of Assassin's Creed, but there's something about like someone being 3 levels ahead of me in the RPG systems, especially in Odyssey, and me stabbing at them with a spear for like 5 minutes straight and like still trying to take them down. If they hit me once, my health would drop like almost to death. I was like, this is horrible. And they're like, do more side quests. And I'm like, and they're like, or you could pay to move along. And I'm like,
you can always do that.
Killing me, like, it was surprising to see that in a single player game, but I get it. They're trying to find ways to monetize games that only in the past people have bought one thing for. They've only had to purchase something once. So it's frustrating, but we'll see about Valhalla. And it's weird because I just wonder if there's any overlap because as I kind of messaged you a little while ago, it's like they've got that, Legion and this Immortals Phoenix Rising coming out so quickly together. And I wonder if it's a money thing or if it's just like, we need to get these games done and out, because last year all they had was Ghost Recon and Breakpoint, which was not done. Like, so they just
that's true. Well, because they all got delayed at the same time, right? So they all got kicked into 2020 fiscal 2021, I think. And you're absolutely right. December 3rd for I will say Gods and Monsters, Immortals Phoenix Rising is such a weird release date.
Yeah.
It's after Black Friday. It's going into Christmas. It looks good. I want to be excited about it, but it's a weird date. It's like, Ubisoft, do you have faith in this one? Are you just trying to squeeze it in?
Yeah.
What's the story?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to know. I'm really fascinated to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we need to start wrapping this show up because we're busy men, Rick. We got other things to go and,
I honestly, I'm looking at my phone. I got like 6 client emails, which isn't great, but it is what it is.
Well, we'll start to wrap it up then. Just 2 quick things to end the show with. We're going to go into the segment that we like to call Time Killers. And we basically just want to know, Rick, what have you been killing time with? Movies, games, anything like that?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm 3/4 of the way through my all seasons watch of Top Chef here in 2020 and lockdown. So we're in the middle of season 13, which is, I'm sure, exactly what your viewers want to hear. I played through Avengers. I played through the main campaign. I've been playing with Captain America for a little bit. In terms of games, I have been hammering away at Ghost of Tsushima. I'm at the tail end of the 3rd act. So yeah, I really like that Act 2 to Act 3 transition. That was some good stuff.
Oh, Rick, oh gosh, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm right at the tail end of that game, so I'm going to finish that off pretty soon. Otherwise, I've kind of been meandering through Xbox Game Pass stuff. I had been playing some Sea of Thieves with my daughter. My daughter adores Sea of Thieves.
Oh, really? Cool.
We kind of play in the same room, and she directs me and tells me where the island is that I'm going to and things like that.
Cool.
And then on the PC side, I've been playing Crusader Kings 3. So I'm knee deep in a plot to take over the Hungarian Empire with my son, who was originally married to the third in line to the throne of Hungary, and now is first in line through some accidents that happened to the other members of the Hungarian family line. I don't know. Anyway, very, very fortunate for my son.
That's very
so that game's a kick. I really like that game, especially after a long work day, because there's a lot of time where you're just gonna you set your plans in motion and then you kind of watch the map. And so that's a nice game for. I can't really think of 6,000 things right now, and I just need to put the Crusader Kings on, open the window, and sit back a little bit.
Sure,
that's mostly what I've been doing. Is a smorgasbord of those kinds of things.
That's fantastic. Well, I hope we can compare notes on Ghost of Tsushima when you are done with it, because I would really love to.
I'll probably do a post-mortem video. Like, I like that one enough. I don't know. There's no guarantees there, because I have. Epic and Apple just keep filing documents against each other.
Sure.
So, we just have to keep up with that. I didn't cover one of the documents they filed yesterday, and I got people mad at me. And I'm like, it's mostly the same as the previous document, but I'll probably cover it tomorrow because, okay.
You've become like that Twitch streamer that streams only Minecraft, and one day you didn't stream Minecraft, and everybody's like, what are you doing? And you're like, hey, man, I'm sorry.
I can't even follow this. Where's your video? It's like, well, I did a video today.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you folks.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's cool. Okay, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch your postmortem on Ghost of Tsushima, because it was I loved it, and I think shameless plug is one of my greatest reviews I've ever done, because I took my time, and it's the greatest review out there. I tell you what, I haven't watched the other ones
because I avoid reviews really until I've seen them myself.
Yeah,
so.
That's the other thing too, is I think a lot of people who are gonna play the games don't want to, because there's just been so many times where there's a game, it shows something inadvertently, or they talk about a thing about it, and
I can think of half a dozen things you could have showed that I would be mad at you about.
Exactly.
Not saying that you did.
Yeah, but that's why I put the spoilers warning on there for everything now, because if you don't, Rick, then people get really angry at you. They're like, how dare you? And I'm like,
how dare you?
I'm like, I talked about a major mechanic of the game, and they're like, you can't bring that up. It's a spoiler. And I'm like, oh, right. You shouldn't be watching a review then. Sorry.
I can imagine your mechanic that you talked about, yeah.
Oh, not in this. This was another game. I'll tell you about that sometime. Anyway, but we're going to move into the last segment, which is going to be rapid fire community feedback and questions. Rick, these are questions we got from the Legionnaires because they were so excited you were going to be on. So this one, let's just do these quick. This one comes in on Twitter from @silversmith_MX. He says, just for the sake of adding more stuff, chances Microsoft adds an MMO game developer to their studio lineup. With Game Pass being relatively pricey, it might add more value to the service.
Well, I mean, I think the question is, as ever, where's the value? I mean, what's the partner?
Sure.
Microsoft is always out there right now, very clearly willing to buy companies, willing to go out with acquisition dollars for the right price, the right partner, the right fit. I think to give them full credit, they're spending a lot of money, they're buying a lot of studios, but they're clearly picking folks and studios that they have a good rapport with and that seem to mesh with the entity that they're trying to put together. So from an MMO perspective, off the top of my head, I don't know who you would get. The biggest MMOs, your World of Warcraft and your Final Fantasy 14, those are obviously already taken. Those are publishers. So you start talking about maybe some of the MMOs that work better or that have a bigger presence in the Eastern countries. I get the names wrong. The Black Dragon, maybe?
Black Desert Online.
Black Desert Online is one that pops up a bunch. I don't know. The other thought was the Old Republic. That's EA. So I think it's tricky. I think the better question is, would they birth one from the ground up?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too.
Would they spend the money to put a team together? And the question there is, MMOs are a huge time commitment. They're a huge labor commitment, very expensive. and you've got a big failure rate on them.
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft is moving into the service model, and they need content, yes, and MMOs can give that, but they're probably going to continue to move into licensing and smaller companies before MMOs.
Yeah, fair enough.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not Phil Spencer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great answer. This one comes in. This is just a quick comment. Yarden Angel said, "Whoa, nice get. Rick's a good guy. Should be an awesome conversation." Thank you, Yarden. I agree.
Thank you.
This one comes in quickly from @CombatVetGaming. Ask him how long it's been since Michigan beat Ohio State in football. So how long has it been since Michigan beat Ohio State in football? I don't know. I don't cover sports stuff. I feel like
these are Ohio State fans. You know what? You know what being a Michigan fan teaches you? Humility.
Yeah.
And Ohio State fans don't have that humility because we've beaten them once in the last 16 years. That's a rivalry.
Here we go.
You know what's funny about this is I grew up and it was about even. It was a normal rivalry. And then it went on a 16-year, not so fun time for me. More fun for the Ohio State folks.
Yeah. Hey, I'm from Minnesota, so I know that better than most.
Hey, there you go.
You get it. Last question. This comes in from the J-Strom over on our Discord. He says, question for Hoeg. If I worked for AIM doing light security work for, let's say, a robot factory, and the Incredible Hulk was trespassing, and I chose not to engage the Green Goliath, and was then later fired for not doing my job by my less than sympathetic boss, George Tarleton, a.k.a. MODOK, would I have any legal recourse for keeping my job when I knew that fighting the Incredible Hulk would most likely result in physical damage to my person? I thought you might like this one, so I was like, I gotta ask him.
Well, there's a lot of dependencies there. First, we'd have to know where the laboratory was operated. The jurisdictional laws are going to tell you what kind of obligations you have. United States labor regulations are going to be different than other jurisdictions. Even within those, the states are going to be different. But for the most part, the reason why you wouldn't see this come up is insurers don't want to give insurance to companies that are going to encourage medical expenses and have their people. You see this, just imagine a GameStop. You know, if you go and you've got a shoplifter and you see them stealing stuff, in general, sometimes people don't follow these rules. They aren't supposed to gang tackle you.
Yep.
They aren't supposed to do those kinds of things because you can get into medical liabilities, you can get into other liabilities for your employer and things like that. So chances are your company would say, no, don't engage with that. Now, if you happen to be working for MODOK, you have other problems. So my thesis has always been don't work for the bad guys because the law is a statute written by people in another state or another city, and it's not going to protect you from a giant-headed, alien-looking man with a robot suit, regardless of what it says. I think that's my answer for AIM Incredible Hulk et al.
That's great. What a great answer. Okay, well, thank you for responding to that. But again, this is just for fun. This is not legal
That's
advice.
Right.
This
if
is
you
not.
do run across the Incredible Hulk and or work for AIM and or MODOK, this was not official legal representation. I am not your lawyer. You are not my client. This was for informational and educational purposes only.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm happy to be just like the backup lawyer in training, or lit, as the kids like to say. I just made that up, and I feel very, very witty. All right, so I hope people who are listening to this take that to heart. But that's going to do it for the show today. We could keep talking for hours and hours, Rick, because you're so much fun to hang out with. But thank you to everybody who wrote in. I appreciate it. If you ever have a question, a topic, or whatever else for any of our guests or for me on the show, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast, and you can tweet at me. I'm at JimmyGood013. Twitter, please give me just at JimmyGood. He's not using it. Or you can tweet at GoCritical. But if they want to find you, Rick, on Hoeg Law's business law firm account or just your personal one, where can they find you?
Oh, sure. Well, the firm has a website, www.hoeglaw. Spelling of my name is Hoeg. A lot of people have very many different spellings for it, but it is, in fact, Hoeg. You can find me at www.hoeglaw.com. I'm on Twitter at Hoeglaw, and then the YouTube channel, Virtual Legality, all that good stuff is /Hoeglaw. We just are playing around with opening up a merchandise store at Teespring /Hoeglaw, so you can check out our very early returns there. It's an interesting life for a law firm and a lawyer, but virtual legality has become popular, and so we're trying to see exactly how to make that continue to grow.
Yes, definitely. And most people are used to me plugging myself here at the end of the show where, you know, it's like Instagram, Spreadshirt, and Patreon, all that stuff. The links are down below. However, this week, instead of supporting us here, I would really recommend that you please go check out Virtual Legality. Go check out Hoeg Law over on YouTube. Check out a few of his videos. If you like them, hit the like button. If you like 3 of them, consider subscribing, because that's the way I kind of look at things. If I'm like, okay, I've enjoyed a few of these things, it's kind of like a TV show. If you watch like 3, you're like, I'm kind of into it. So please go check them out. There have been some, like, Rick, you've done some really interesting ones. We talked about it kind of earlier, but if you have any interest in kind of like legalese or like what language, language,
we do a lot of that fun stuff. I mean, like, really that's the thing. I think people hear about virtual legality and it's like, oh, I'm talking about statutes and things, and I do. I read through the epic lawsuits and we try to make those fun, but like, there are so many aspects of the world that are impacted by how you interpret language, what people can get away with, how companies market themselves. And I think we were either talking about it offline or at the top of this video. That was, you know, like the Bungie stuff yesterday, where the CEO comes out and says, this is false to a long form rumor. We did a breakdown of it in the video about how, yeah, that's undoubtedly true. People don't lie, but here's how this language actually works to be, hey, this could be a dozen different things that maybe you can't recognize if you're just kind of skimming over it on Twitter. So we do that kind of fun stuff too. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully it's educational. I really appreciate you sending folks over, and yeah, hopefully they like it. Absolutely.
For sure. And honestly, guys, I'm telling you this, it's me, it's Jimmy from Critical Reviews. If there's anything, if I'm going to direct you towards something, it's something that I legitimately really enjoy myself. I wouldn't just be doing it just because he's on here. I really do like it. So please check it out. Tell him Jimmy sent you, and you really will be fascinated by the stuff, even the stuff that's come up in the past few months or weeks or whatever else, and the new stuff. Because Rick, you do such a good job of getting this stuff out so quickly, and I'm amazed and impressed by it. So congratulations to your success,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for being on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.